Hi everyone, Kathy Rose here. I'm going to talk to you about the astrological patterns for October 2024. So let's all get into a Libra state of mind. You see the mandala on screen is for the sign Libra, and Libra is an air sign in the cardinal modality. So we're really talking about engaging our intellect, our thinking, our objectivity, and infusing that with harmony. And Libra is really trying to seek not only harmony, but balance. So let's talk about this. The themes for October, top of the list, is creating balance. In a moment, in the next slide, I'm going to show you the new moon in Libra chart, which is also an eclipse. And that really makes the point about finding a new level of balance within us. Another theme for October is going to be power and hierarchy adjustments. And this is because Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn will end the retrograde and begin forward motion. And with that, all those power issues and necessary adjustments that are trying to take place will come forward, come into public view in a new way. And in addition to that, Pluto is the planet that rules perspective. It's the outermost planet in the zodiac. And it brings about this necessary need to take a higher view and have a perspective shift. We're certainly going to be feeling that. October could hold some surprises, and it will push us to pick the perspective we want to have. And that's very important to consider. So let's go into the new moon in Libra chart. This is a solar eclipse. It's a mild one, but this is still a very, very important time. If you remember, in mid-September, we had an eclipse in Pisces. That was a full moon eclipse. And that Pisces full moon in mid-September was conjunct Neptune. And since then, we've had two major flooding events, one in Europe, and then the one most recently, which was just a few days ago. I'm recording this at the end of September, but we had Hurricane Helene in the United States with massive flooding and devastation in some major areas. I followed that intensely, and I can tell you I am currently today seeking a new level of emotional balance because that event from Hurricane Helene threw me out of balance. I have so many friends and colleagues who live there. It was quite emotionally impactful. So we see on screen for this new moon in Libra that it's Sun, Moon, Mercury conjunct in Libra. And this adds a dimension of yearning for harmony at a new level in our thinking, yearning to find balance between our body, mind, and spirit. You see that this new moon is also square to Mars. Now, you have to remember this Mars in Cancer is a very powerful cycle right now. I talked about that last month in the September forecast video because Mars entered Cancer in September. And at the time of this eclipse, it's at 15 Cancer. It will continue through the sign Cancer, and in November, it enters Leo, and then in December, it begins a retrograde at 5 degrees Leo, and Mars will retrograde all the way back to 17 Cancer. And this whole process, the Mars retrograde, won't complete fully until we get to the April-May timeframe in the spring. So what we have here in this chart with Mars in Cancer, which is very emotional energy, it's the need to caretake, it's sensitivity, it's the mothering energy, squaring these three planets in Libra, the air sign, which is objective and logical and trying to find compromise, trying to find balance. You see the very clear statement just staring at us in this chart of directing our thoughts to harmony, but finding balance between any turbulent emotions we might feel and our belief system. So it's challenging. Squares are challenging. Squares produce tension, developmental tension that is enough of a push that we seek to resolve it. So this is fascinating. Now, the other thing I want to say about this is if you were not affected by Hurricane Helene, then I'm happy for you. That's awesome. But for all of us, Mars in Cancer is teaching us to be aware of where we need to nurture and nourish ourselves, where we need to soothe our psyche, where we need to comfort ourselves, and how we need to comfort ourselves. So be mindful, especially around the time of this new moon in Libra. Be mindful of creating new habits where you are consistently aware of your nervous system, because Libra rules the nervous system, and your emotional state of mind. Be aware of whether you are empty, whether your emotional, physical, spiritual tanks are empty because you might be overgiving, and when you need to receive and recharge and fill your tanks, and how you need to do that. When Mars in Cancer does not have the attention that it needs, we get fussy, we get cranky, we get moody. So the background energy with this Mars in Cancer dynamic is going to be awareness, self-soothing techniques. And that can be anywhere from taking a nap, if that's what you need, taking a walk, reading a book, anything that you need to self-soothe that is practical in the time frame that you have. You know, many times I don't get a full day off. Many times all I get is an hour or two as time off. So I've learned to be extremely efficient in recharging my own personal, emotional, spiritual, mental batteries during that time. And so I will say, given the amount of time I have, what will work well for me on this day? And that is a great technique to be developing right now. First of all, awareness when you're out of balance, and then action to solve the problem given the time that you have. And I say this because I could choose to go into victim mode, or I could choose to get really fussy and out of balance because I don't have a day or two or three off to just go play. I mean, I'm happy I have enough business where I don't have any time off. I'm not complaining, honestly. But I could choose to get a bad attitude about it and get frustrated. Instead, I say, let's work with the dynamic I have and try to make it really, really efficient. And I'm not the only one in this situation. There are many people. There are mothers who are caring for small children who never get any time off. There are people with really intense schedules who get very little time off. So you see what I'm saying? We can either choose to stay grumpy or grouchy or cranky, or we can take action to correct it. And that's what this Mars in Cancer is trying to teach us. Fill your tanks up, self-soothe, nurture, nourish yourself, and find creative ways that you need to do this in the time that you're given. Okay, so that's the main symbol here. Adjust your attitude. We have Mercury conjunct the sun and moon. It's just beyond the conjunction, but it doesn't matter. Adjust your attitude, adjust your thinking, be creative, and find the solution. So this next image is a balance point. I mean, this is the entire focus of the new moon in Libra. Find the balance. And sometimes you have to get out of balance in order to find the balance. Isn't that an interesting concept? I mean, those of you who are Libra, you know exactly what I mean, right? Because many times people with planets in Libra experience balance only because being out of balance was so irritating or agitating. And so it pushed them to find balance. So I love this picture, and I love to meditate on the calmness of this balance point that you find here. And when we find it, we need to celebrate. And we know life is a school, and this school in Earth, on Earth, is going to bring us opportunities to reestablish balance again and again and again. I don't think the object is to be in perfect balance our entire life. I think the purpose is to find solutions to get back into balance because life is supposed to be teaching us. There's supposed to be challenge to life. It's just how quick can we recoup? So there's a deep messages with this new moon in Libra happening early in the month. Next, we go on and we continue this theme of how important it is to be aware of our thinking and our attitude and our nervous system, because on October 9th, Jupiter will begin the retrograde in Gemini. So Jupiter in Gemini has been very much focused on nervous system energy because Gemini is an air sign, and our thinking and our beliefs and our ability to speak our truths and bring that into form. Because when we say something out loud, we are engaging sound waves, and those sound waves are really manifesting right now. Jupiter begins the retrograde at 21 degree Gemini, October 9th, and it will end the retrograde on February 4th at 11 degrees Gemini. So as Jupiter enters retrograde and we get a chance to review, where are we doing a good job with our thinking? And what new communication patterns do we want to begin? And where do we want to engage our brain and our learning and expand? So if you have planets or angles between 11 Gemini and 21 Gemini, then you get another dose of this strong Jupiter expansion energy. But do please take care of your nervous system, breathe, and really focus on being able to create that balance and the harmony on command when you need it. And then what happens in middle part of 2025, in June of 25, Jupiter will enter Cancer. So starting in 2025, we have an incredible dynamic. Not only does Jupiter enter Cancer, but at that same time in mid-25, we're going to have Saturn and Neptune entering Aries. More about that in the 2025 forecast I'm going to do with Pam Gregory, and we're going to talk about this in depth. The reason I'm mentioning this now, though, is because from October, especially to February, we get to sharpen our thinking and integrate new belief systems. And this is a very, very important period to make that productive. All right, so next will be the power and the hierarchy adjustments that are in play. They've been in play for the last few years since the pandemic came about and we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. But they are particularly strong in October, and it's going to be like having several exclamation points at the end of a sentence. October 12th, Pluto begins direct motion. It ends the retrograde in Capricorn. And in mid-November, Pluto will complete this transit in Capricorn and move into Aquarius. So this point at which Pluto begins direct motion is very, very important because it unleashes a ball of energy, so to speak. It unleashes profound flow of power to create adjustments around power and hierarchy. So you see the image I have on screen is, one where there is often hierarchy in corporations, in society, in governments, where there's a power person or group at the top of the heap, and then everybody below is beholden, so to speak, to the person at the top, or affected by those power structures. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is the people at the bottom of the pile don't feel like they are seen in the same way as the person at the top. They are seen as less valuable or less important. And a lot of that is changing right now. I continue to use the example of somebody who might be a CEO in a company and somebody who might be a janitor in that company. Society seems to value them differently, but who's to say who has more value? Everybody is adding energy and creating worth in their own way. So this last pass of Pluto in Capricorn for October and November creates a perspective shift, creates value changes. There's so much that's happening here as it gets ready to enter Aquarius and then start moving through Aquarius for many, many years to come. What happens, though, on October 12th, after Pluto goes direct in Capricorn, is the next day, Mercury is going to square Pluto. And then on the 14th, Venus will be opposite Uranus. I'm bringing this up because that middle part of October is juicy. It's got a lot of energy flowing and a lot of changes and surprises may be taking place. And especially here in the US, when we have the presidential election getting ready to happen in early November. So I'm going to be so fascinated to see what's taking place in the middle part of October regarding power and hierarchy adjustments, regarding fairness and balance, wanting to come back into the situation, regarding law and order and justice coming back into the situation. These aspects, Mercury square Pluto, Venus opposite Uranus, are going to stir things up and work with Pluto being direct in Capricorn. So my bottom line here, as we go through October, make sure you are breathing and create a bubble in your own reality where you have fairness and justice and beauty and harmony, and then observe. Again, it's a perspective shift. And you want to be observing without absorbing, especially because we have that Mars and Cancer transit. Observing without absorbing. So mid-month, we also have a full moon in Aries, October 17th, right when all this jazzy energy is taking place. There's so much here. Now, you'll see a lot of red lines on the chart on screen. And of course, this chart is set for Washington, D.C. And what is really strong to me is that we have the Sun in Libra opposite the moon in Aries. That will be squaring Mars in Cancer. And Mars in Cancer is opposite Pluto. It's a 7-degree, 6.5-degree orb, but this is very, very strong. So what we have is Mars square the Sun square Pluto, Pluto square Moon, Moon square Mars. This is called a grand square in the cardinal modality. This is incredibly dynamic and volatile, highly charged because Pluto is involved. So this is without a doubt, once again, saying what I just said, it's juicy and there will be surprising and dynamic changes, I think, happening in the United States because these planets are angular in this chart. We'll see what's happening. And of course, I believe that's going to be happening somehow around the US election. I am spending a lot of time just doing my prayer work for divine justice, divine right action for the highest good of all concerned, and letting truth emerge and just blessing the whole process. So be very aware of the middle part of October in trying to hold your balance because it's a highly charged time. And as this full moon in Aries is taking place, we're going to have Venus still in orb in the opposition of Uranus. Venus will be at 29 degrees Scorpio, opposite Uranus at 26. And that's some social agitation and intensity taking place. So do a little blessing during this full moon, right action, divine justice for the highest good of all concerned. My final thoughts for the month of October. You see the scales, which is a symbol for Libra. And we're really trying to balance, in addition to our body, mind, and spirit, we're trying to balance our idealism with realism. Many of you who watch these videos or who are interested in spirituality have high idealism as part of your personality. And idealism has a special characteristic of being able to take the higher road, seeing things as they could be if they were healed, going beyond the intensity of the day and going into what it could be if it were harmonious or perfect or wonderful. Idealism is a great thing because it's hopeful and it reaches for something better. But sometimes, if we get too enmeshed in idealism, we miss the signals that are right in front of us. And sometimes we don't make good decisions if we are looking through the lens of idealism because we're missing the signals that are guiding us into a better decision in the now. So we don't want to get so caught up in realism that we get negative and stressed out. Watching the news can do that right now. And we don't want to get so lost in idealism that we're not seeing what needs to be seen. It's finding that perfect balance, and it's tricky. And especially for the audience that watches these videos, the idealistic people out there, of which I am one, and I wrestle with this all the time. It is so important to find realistic balance with idealistic balance. And that is part of what October is going to bring for us. And then the last final thought. I love this image I found. Many times I talk about having the view from the eagle on the high branch, trying to see the big picture, elevated high up in the tree. Well, in this case, I found an image. It's a pigeon on a perch overlooking the city. But I really love this because if we can remember to do that right now, while we are going through so many changes, while humanity is stepping up to a higher vibe, or many people in humanity, maybe not everybody, but those who want to evolve right now are doing so with acceleration. It is helpful to remember the view the pigeon has in this picture, seeing the big picture, really seeing the long-term development of humanity. And that also includes viewing other people as learning, growing, developing souls, not just being angry or upset about how they currently are behaving, but taking the next step and saying, why are they behaving in this way? What are they learning? And what is that triggering in me? And what am I learning? So have a little look at this image and remember to go there, whether you're a pigeon or an eagle or whatever you want to visualize to take that high view. It's going to be very helpful. So I'm wishing you a very happy October. I'm wishing you an October filled with grace, because Libra certainly looks for grace and harmony and beauty and peace and balance. Okay. I look forward to talking to you at the November forecast. Much love always. Bye for now.